Hello friends, Dale D here. Welcome to Three Generations. And today I am going to do a two-part video for you. Two parts, why? Because the one part has some really grotesque visuals that I want to warn people up front. So that's the reason. Before we moved down here to the Shenandoah Valley, and I was looking at retirement, I knew I wanted to raise sheep. And in that process, I did a lot of reading and research, and was aware of the various kinds of things that can be detrimental to sheep. And I ended up early on having internal worms, but even though I read up on it, I needed my neighbor shepherdess to help me with that, because I did not know how to do Fomantia tests on their eyelids. And so she taught me. I'd read about it, I believe, but I guess I'm a slow learner. But anyhow, so the first part is going to be on bottle jaw. And let's see, what else? The other name for bottle jaw, well, a scientific name I probably will not pull up. But it is a phenomenon where sheep will end up with these big, their jaws will get really bubbled out. Bubble jaw, in my mind, would have been a better name than bottle jaw. And I keep trying to call it bubble jaw. And that's what I called it until I looked it up back up, and I go, oh, yeah, that's right, bottle jaw. And so one of my lambs is a cross between Finn and the Tunis Columbia mix U. I had noticed, that's been not quite a month ago, that it was separating from the rest of the ewes. And she was at that point probably about 10 months old, maybe not quite 10 months old. And she was separating. And that's one of those signs that something is not quite right with a sheep or a lamb if it separates from the flock. So I'd go out to do the chores, the sheep would be over in this area, and this lamb would be at the corral, often in the little shed I have, the little sheep shed. It would come out and eat, and it did not look too bad at first, except I did notice that its stomach was shrunken in. So I did a quick search and somewhat confirmed with that search that it was the bottle jaw. And I learned that there's various things that can cause it. And one of those is an internal parasite. And that parasite's name is blah right now. Anyhow. But it could be other things too. And if I remember right, it was a lack of protein that this worm, internal parasite that is in it, is eating at the protein. So that lamb is fighting for its protein with the rest of the sheep for that little bit of protein I give them in addition to their grass. So I decided, I did a Fomantia test where, I push the upper lid down and the lower lid comes down to where I can see the under side of that lid, and it was white, or you could call it a light gray, which indicates usually that that lamb or that sheep is near death. So I did further investigation, and I didn't know for sure. From what I had read, the Fumancha test is not always accurate for bottle jaw. And so I did further investigation and read that Prohibit, which is a dewormer for internal parasites, is a good dewormer for this particular effect.
Worm issue, internal parasite issue. I don't think, well, maybe. I'm not sure if those bubbles on the side of its jaw are as big as they were last night or not. Last night's the first I'd seen that. So anyhow, hey there, sweetie. Yeah, on its left side, it looks a little bigger than on the right side. But anyhow.
And so I separated that lamb, put it in another little pen to make sure it had plenty of protein to eat, to help to counteract hopefully I could get it ahead on protein until Prohibit would work.
Hey there, Lammy. This is the morning after I gave it a dose of Prohibit, and ooh, it's weak, but it still has, but the bottle jaw is gone, pretty much. There might be just a little bit of swelling there, but I separated it from the flock so it can eat all the food it wants. This has been the fourth feeding chore time that it came from out of the sheep shed by itself. So it has separated itself from the herd. It wasn't going out to graze. And fighting up against all the big sheep, it's not going to get a lot of grain. So I just want to separate it, since it's already separated. It's not staying with the flock, and get her back to health, hopefully. You can see there's just a little bit of bottled jaw there yet, but before it was really, really fat. But anyhow, the story continues.
And I noticed within a day that it seemed to have more energy. Not that it didn't have any before, but it stayed pretty local to the corral. And really, other than going for feed, it was pretty inactive. Now it's starting to move around in the pasture, starting to eat the grass there. So I ended up then doing a Fumancha test I think it was day 2. And when I pulled it back, it definitely started having pink in its lower eyelid underneath it. And so I knew that things were going well.
Hey there. Let's see that neck. It's been 2 days since I had dosed you, and it looks perfect. Good deal, Lammy. Prohibit did the job, didn't it, Lammy? Killed those Barber Pole worms, huh? You checking out the chickens? Hey, chickies. Hey there, chickies. You guys ready for some food? You ready for some food?
It got the runs really bad, and it probably wiped out all internal parasites, as runny as it was, for a day and a half-ish, something like that. And then it dried back up. But I kept it in there for, almost 2 weeks probably, giving it pretty much all the grain it wanted. And moved it back, I believe that was last week. I moved it back in with the rest of the ewes. And it was it was at a FOMANCHA that I was comfortable with, which is kind of in the middle range. Instead of a bloody red steak, it was kind of a darker pink in color. So I moved that lamb back with the rest of the ewes so it can start being in community. Sheep, lambs need their community. They are a communal animal and they like to be with other sheep. Other animals can do it, but typically it's preferred to be with sheep. So I put it back in. Seems to be flourishing out there. So anyhow, the other thing I forgot to tell you is by day 2, and I'll show you. I have some visual of this. Its bottle jaw had gotten quite a bit smaller. I mean, the swelling had gone down. By the next day, there was only a little bit of swelling under the underside of the jaw, where before it was much more visible on each side of the jaw. So now it's just a little bit, and at first when I walked up to it, I thought it was completely gone, but once I could get my hands on it, I could see it still had something there. And so I'm pretty sure that it wasn't one of the other things that one have to do. The bottle jaw, there could be other things, like it could have something in its throat that's kind of clogging the passageway that causes it to get the big bubble effect. So anyhow, that's what I needed to do with bottle jaw, and it worked quite well. And prohibit is somewhat of a general dewormer, and I'd actually used it on some of the lambs earlier for some of my other internal parasites. And with it, you buy a packet of the prohibit, you mix it up and keep it in a container. You mix up to, I think it was a gallon, then I date it, and basically you can use it for 3 months. So I had already used it earlier in I forget, July, probably August, late July, early August I'd used it, and then it was still good, and so I used it again on that lamb. Now it's probably past expiration date, plus now things are getting cooler, colder. The parasites that live in the grass that they ingest are getting probably less and less. So I probably don't really need dewormer anymore this year. I try to do this all organically. I don't like to use dewormers. And I do not, you'll have some sheep farmers, shepherds, who deworm every so often. They deworm all of them to get rid of the internal parasites. I tend to be of a more organically driven, so that, if you give the dewormer a lot, they become immune to it, and it's much better for them to be able to build up their resistance to the parasites. And the breeding also, a lot of people who do not use dewormer, they try to build up resistance in their breeding to parasites. And I think I have some of that. I know that once they get to be sheep, full adults, let's call them sheep, full adult sheep, I hardly ever give any kind of a dewormer. Even if they're kind of in that middle range, if they get towards that white gray, then I'm going to deworm. Or if it's an older sheep, it's not really productive anymore. At this point, I would tend to butcher it and eat it. So that takes care of part 1.